Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at hospitality operations, and we are looking at again the attendance of the rooms of accommodation services, and we're kind of like trying to home down into examining the operational aspects of accommodation services in relation to other departments in order to provide high standards of customer service. Okay. Session overview. So we're going to be looking at the linen room, linen suppliers, identify different management structure for linen and laundry services, and analyze the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing operations of the linen suppliers. And we've got training videos and activities as well. So just a quick recap from the previous week. Can you list as many housekeeping tasks as you can remember from the previous week? What are the various job roles in the housekeeping department? Can you remember that? Can you picture, in terms of a medium-sized hotel, the organizational structure? If you remember, at the top we've got the general manager, and then the general manager, various managers report to him, and then we have the operations manager, who also reports to the general manager. The general manager looks over the overall strategic position of the hotel, whereas the operations manager looks at the day-to-day running of the hotel. And then the operation manager will have a range of different managers depending upon the size of the hotel reporting into him, which includes the front of house and includes the front of house manager. And the front of house manager will have various managers and a hierarchical structure reporting to him. So, can you think of what are the responsibilities and tasks for each one? So the linen room. So all linen from the hotel are stored in the linen room. It needs to be a fireproof location, obviously. And all room attendance trolleys also stored in the linen room as well. Different hotels have different standards, over whether these are stocked at night or in the morning. But I suppose from my perspective, it would be better to try and stock it at night. Then if you did a stock sheet, you could see, if the trolleys were all full, if you had enough sheets, and you could actually see what was out of stock, ready to go first thing in the morning to try and take alternative action if things were out of stock. Linen room attendant responsibilities. Count the dirty linen. Be aware of the upcoming occupancy. Liaise with the linen company to ensure that there is enough clean linen coming up. Again, you have to know, and you can't afford to be out of stock, because if you think about it, if you were out of stock of linen, so you couldn't use and meet the standards required in a specific room, then that room couldn't be sold to a customer. So that would mean that you would lose that revenue just because you didn't have enough linen. So, and that would be unacceptable. Linen room attendant responsibilities. You've got to make sure that you replace not only the linen but all the other parts, component parts, and individual items required in each room. Be aware of upcoming functions which require specialty linen. Control stock of toiletries and refreshments, and not just the toiletries, making sure that you have the right quantities, the right labels of the right products, and when they actually go in by the room attendants, they're actually positioned, as you can see, in the right way according to standards. In terms of the linen supplier, what could be the benefits or possibly outsourcing the laundry service? What could be the benefits? Can you think of the benefits? So let's look at some of the benefits. Well, in the hotel itself, you would need expensive machinery to do the washing, the laundry, and also the maintenance of the machinery as well. Risk of chemicals and heat of the laundry facility. Again, you would need the right storage for the linen, and you'd need the right storage for chemicals as well. And you'd need to know that people were well trained in terms of the chemicals that they were using when they were doing the laundry service. Staff, intensive work, high staff costs, and sometimes there are high staff costs, and this not well paid, and so you have a high staff turnover, predominantly in the hospitality industry. Linen is expensive. So again, these are all some of the things which could point you in another direction. But if you get it right, overall I suppose it could save you time if you do it all in-house. So there are going to be advantages and disadvantages. The linen supplier owns the linen. Stock, take to ensure that you have the linen you are paying for. So when you receive the linen, you have to do a stock take to say you've received X amount and sign off those. So that it needs to be counted, which takes a bit more time than if you had your own linen in the hotel, where you know how many linen and you could count it there and then. To ensure that you have not lost any linen as well, because you will be charged for any linen that you lose. Rents a set amount of stock to you, dependent on the average occupancy, depending upon how much linen you actually require, and the number of linen deliveries per week. In terms of the minimums, one set in the room, one set at the laundry, and one set on the shelves. So again, you will need to make sure that you have a proper procedures and policies in place to make sure you have the appropriate linen necessary in order to meet the needs of the hotel. Best practice for reducing linen costs. So what is the best practice for reducing these linen costs? Should it be in-house or should it be outsourced? What do you think? Individual activity. Here, an individual activity here is to write a job description in terms of a job role in the housekeeping department. So if we look at the again the organizational structure of a potential housekeeping structure, we can see you have the executive housekeeper and then an assistant housekeeper. And then to the assistant housekeeper you have the floor supervisor, desk supervisor, public area supervisor, and then linen and uniform room supervisor. And the linen and uniform room supervisor also has the linen room attendants. Again, you've got the public area supervisor with the public area attendants and the cloakroom attendants. Desk supervisor has the runner, and the floor supervisor has the room attendants and housemen. But here we're looking at the linen and uniform room supervisor and the linen room attendants. So do you think you could write a job description of a job of the job role of the housekeeping department? What would that include, do you think? What would you be looking for? So there are different ways to provide the linen service. You've got the on-premise laundry, OPL. Laundry is on the hotel property, typically only provides service to the hotel. You've got customer-owned goods, COG. Hotel contracts with independent operator to wash the hotel's owned linens, usually on a per pound basis. And constant push-pull, concerning linen loss. And you have a rental service as well, rental service, hotel contracts with outside service to provide linen service. Can be an independent or national company. So here we're kind of like looking at different ways to provide the linen service. So on the premises, laundry, is on the hotel property, typically only provide service to the hotel, customer owned goods, and a rental service. So which one do you think you would opt for and why? Ways to manage a linen service. It could be hotel managed, in terms of managers can be full-time laundry managers or have other responsibilities such as housekeeping manager. You could have a contract management, e.g. Sunlight, can run on the premise laundry, rental, laundry, or cooperatives, and will have dual reporting responsibilities. So, kind of like, what's the advantages and disadvantages of this? Well, it's not your own company, it's not your own employees, it's more of a contract management where you pay for this service, but you want things done in a certain way. But again, there are again advantages and disadvantages using a contract management. Ownership, you own and run your own laundry company, centralized facility for hotel group, e.g. Milsom Group. So do you have your own laundry company where it's in-house, where you actually own it? Or do you contract it out, or is it hotel managed? Which one do you think you would want to go for? I suppose it could really depend on the size of the hotel. It could depend on the organizational culture of the hotel and the fixed and variable costs, and what works out better for the hotel in the long term. So there's a task here. So you are opening a new 120 room 4-star county house hotel. So individually doing this by yourselves, you could research into the different laundry-linen service operations and put forward a case for your choice of linen provision and management. And here you would have both the advantages and disadvantages of your choice of service. So what would you go for? Opening a new 120 room 4-star county house hotel. Which one would you go for? Would you go for in-house ownership? Would you go for contract management? Would you go give it out to another company? What would you do? So in-house own linen. So if we look at the advantages here, we can see that the advantages, choose your own style, quality. No need to pay high rental costs, because obviously the rental costs are going to be higher. Cost savings on purchasing and washing, definitely. Staff, may take more care of their own linen. Good quality linen can be sold to guests, bathrobes, towels, extending the hotel experience. And supply is not affected by external events, bad weather. Disadvantages, you have to do your own stock takes. You have to replace damaged linen yourself, with a cost implication. High costs for initial outlay equipment. High training needs costs. But even though it's a disadvantage to replace damaged linen, you're going to get damaged linen anyway. So even if you used an outside supplier to supply you and provide you with the clean linen, you could still damage that linen anyway, so that would still cost you. High cost for the initial outlay. It's true, there is an initial outlay and you need to look at your cash flow, but at the same time, these costs in the balance sheet and the profit and loss account can be depreciated. So over a period of time you can depreciate and you can offset these against your profits. But you do have high training needs and costs. Contract or rented, the advantages. You do not have to do your own stock takes. Reject linen is replaced depending upon service level agreement. That's depending upon the service level agreement. Can put laundry room space to better use, so you got more room, potentially a guest room perhaps, bringing in more revenue for the hotel. Management can focus on other core competencies. You can focus now your management with one less function that you have to do within the hotel. But nevertheless, you still need to liaise and manage the contract rented company. Reduce costs, initial capital costs for equipment, definitely. So it helps in your cash flow. Disadvantages, quality choice may not be up to your expectations. You've got high rental charges. Linen replacement not always guaranteed by supplier. Abused linen stock is charged for, so you get damaged linen, then you will have to pay for that. Obviously, damaged stock can also be charged for. And staff may be less careful with the linen as it doesn't belong to the hotel. But you could argue that that's depending upon how you train your staff anyway, but maybe that's a psychological point. Linen cost considerations. Every piece of linen has a unique processing cost. Does it need to be counted or sorted? Does it need to be light or heavy wash? Does it need to be ironed or folded by hand or machine? Is it to be packaged by, e.g., guest slippers? What is the hourly processing rate? So these are some of the things that you will need to do. Outsourcing housekeeping. There is a growing trend towards outsourcing full departments, including that of, the housekeeping department. Cleaning agencies tapping into the hospitality industry, offering fully outsourced operations. I mean, from one perspective, this does look good. As long as you can get it tailor-made to your own needs, and as long as the outsourcing, in terms of the housekeeping, provides different standards and different qualities to meet the expectations of your customers' needs. And if it can meet the expectations of your customers and do a professional job, and it links in well with your business, then there could be potential good cost savings in terms of doing this, in terms of initial outlay costs, not having to train staff, being able to utilize your resources elsewhere and focus elsewhere. But again, they would need to link in with the philosophy of your company fully. So as a task here, you operate an existing independent city centre 3-star hotel. You have issues with cleaning standards and staffing in the housekeeping department, and are considering outsourcing the department. So consider the circumstances above, investigate the advantages for and against outsourcing the whole department. So what do you think? Would you outsource it? Would you not outsource it? What are the advantages for outsourcing it? What are the disadvantages for outsourcing it? Which one would you go for? Outsourcing housekeeping advantages, capital cost savings, new sites, okay, cost savings ongoing, labor, materials. So you don't have to, if you're outsourcing everything, then yes, there is a cost, but then you're saving on staff, you're saving on wages, you're saving on having to pay pension contributions with the new government scheme, tax on the amount of wages that you pay staff to the government, reduced training and recruitment. You will have reduced training and recruitment, but you would still need to liaise and make sure that the housekeeping outsourcing meets your standards. Allows greater focus on guest services, that you will be able to focus your staff. Greater flexibility, changes in demand, seasonality, specialization, technical skills, specialist equipment. You may not have that, so this other company would have that knowledge. And supports faster expansion. Again, it will depend on the company itself in terms of technical skills and specialist equipment. Outsourcing housekeeping, disadvantages. Hard to maintain company culture, and this is the point, the company culture. What is the philosophy? You really need to make sure there's a strong link between the two companies working together. Greater emphasis on trust, definitely. Harder to control standards of contractors' employees, so it's very difficult. So again, you'd still come back to training in terms and training and expectations. Challenge of ensuring contractors meet specific hotel needs, not just following contractors' standing operating procedures. Okay, lack of cross-training staff to work in other departments. So there is nothing in the agency theory that would help explain why it is easier to monitor the output of an employee than that of an independent contractor. So do you agree? Would it be easier to monitor the output of an employee than that of an independent contractor? What do you think? So conclusion, we looked at the recap discussion, linen room duties, identified different managerial structures for linen and laundry services, and analysed the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing operations. Average day in housekeeping. Thank you from Mr. Tan.